Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another edition of Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon, Director of Business Development for Parabolas. We provide a better financial partnership for government contractors that includes a line of credit to fund your growth. The purpose of this podcast is to assist small businesses with success in the federal marketplace by introducing them to industry experts and resources that they may not otherwise know about. Today's guest is Donte Lewis, president of Vine Technology Solutions. We're chatting with him today to continue our series, Chronicles of a GovCon CEO. And we appreciate you being here today, Donte. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Teresa.
Awesome. So if you would please share some details about yourself with our audience and include an overview of the services your company provides.
Sure. Again, Donte Lewis, Vine Technology Solutions. We provide IT services focused around digital transformation for the government. We've recently also started providing managed services to nonprofit and commercial small and medium-sized businesses, really focusing on growth and transformation top down.
That's awesome. And that's super important these days. I know digital transformation is a big term that people outside of the IT world may not be familiar with. So give a little overview on that too, to break it down for the lay people like this one sitting right here across the
Believe it or not, Teresa, I have to do that pretty often. So don't feel bad. But truly, I like to say digital transformation takes folks from where they are today to the future of technology and business, right? And what we really focus on is doing that in a way that is faster and increases the return on investment, right? Because everybody's doing it. So how do I do it faster, and how do I, do it a little bit cheaper? And so that's our focus.
That's great. And I love the explanation about it too. That breaks it down in an easy and palatable way to understand it. So I appreciate that. I've actually not heard anyone say it that way before. And it makes total sense to someone that does not have a technology brain. I can write that down now. And really, when someone brings it up in conversation now, I don't need to check out and be like,
yeah. I like to try to keep it simple. I might have started out with like this broad thing, like a catch-all, but I like to try to keep it simple. And then the coach and teacher in me probably comes out when you start asking me more questions. So
hey, that's great. And I think a lot of people will respect that about you, because we all like to be taught in the ways that are most applicable to our learning experience. And so you were speaking my language there. I appreciate that.
Okay, speaking Teresa. Good deal.
That's right. I don't want to lower the bar for you there.
No, you're good. You're good.
Awesome. Well, listen, when you and I were chatting about this episode and things and topics that we could talk about, we were chatting about your journey of getting involved in the federal marketplace and what that looked like, some of the successes and challenges that you faced along the way. So I'd really like to start at the beginning with you. If you could, talk about how the journey started and a little bit about your background prior to engaging in the federal marketplace. What were you doing that you decided that engaging with the federal government was the way to go?
Sure. So I'll go back to college. So I won't go all the way back, but I'll go back to college. And it's the story that I tell pretty often. But the first date with my wife, well, my now wife, you do the pleasantries, what do you want to be when you grow up? And when it got to me, I said, I want to own my own business. And so the natural question was, oh, cool. And what? And I was like, that's the part that I haven't figured out yet. Right. And so I would say from there on went the journey of sort of discovering who I am and the value that I bring from a business owner perspective. So I graduated from college. I played football in college. I don't know if I guess we'll get to that later, but I played football in college down at the College of William and Mary. I graduated and I worked for Accenture for a couple of years being a programmer. I just knew that I wanted to do programming. And I'll tell you what, Teresa, it wasn't my thing. Believe it or not, I was good at it. But I talk too much. And I wanted to bring people together and do all of these things. And I had a big picture view of the world and how things would go. And so it went well as far as the people that managed me, et cetera. But for me, it was just not a good fit. And so divine intervention being what it is, I'm a man of faith. So I got in on the ground floor of a pilot program at the National Security Agency as a civilian called the Program Management Development Program. I was the first one, maybe by a few weeks, so a few months, but I was the first one. And the really cool part about that, just talking about the journey, was it was a pilot. So like there were no rails, there were no guardrails. We had to find our own tours. You were you're an entrepreneur because you had to figure it all out within some of the parameters that they had, but not much. And so I learned a ton. Graduated from the program and was leading large government IT programs. Then I decided to go contractor, if you will. So I worked for a small government contractor to learn the ropes, right? At this point, I knew at some point I wanted, like when I got much older, like that was kind of my thing. When I get older, I'll do it. So, I went to learn the ropes. I wouldn't say that they were interested in teaching me the ropes, but I learned a lot, and I got to work my way up, managing a program of over 40 people doing data center consolidation.
Wow.
So went really well, but once again, the writing was on the wall. I needed to leave. But at that point, I was sort of at a crisis because I was like, what am I going to do now, right? And I'm too young. I don't know enough to start my own company, but I don't have the name to jump to another company and then I immediately become a partner or a director, right? So I was at a crisis. Again, my faith comes into play here. So divine intervention has it where I knew after a while, it wasn't immediate. It was time. So that's sort of the journey to starting Vine.
Right. That's awesome. I mean, I love the fact that you listened to your heart when you were engaging in all of this, because it's scary. It isn't easy to become a business owner. I chat with a lot of people who have burgeoning businesses that they're overwhelmed because they believed enough in themselves to take on the challenge, but sometimes they don't have enough focus to recognize where their swim lane is, where are their strengths and how do they hone that into actually making money with that? Because as I know I'm probably speaking, preaching to the choir on this, but just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you're going to be profitable as a business owner. There's so much that goes into owning a business and operating a business, exclusive of doing the things that you do well. I chat a lot with people. My CEO says it a lot as well, that a lot of business leaders are operational experts as far as what they do, and they don't know a lot of the details that it takes to be successful as a business owner, the accounting side of things and the payroll side of things and the finding the business development side of things and hiring. You're the chief everything officer in the beginning. And I think that poses a lot of hurdles for a whole number of reasons, because you may not be qualified to do any of those other jobs, let alone hire the people who could potentially be qualified to do those jobs. And so when I was thinking about what your potential journey looked like when, we discussed the topic for today, I thought about it because a lot of what I do on an advocacy side is I'm involved in a lot of different groups that advocate for minority business owners, not only to have access to more opportunity, but to have access to programs that provide them with things, obviously, like funding that they may not otherwise have the knowledge of to go after the proper funding that they need. And I think that there are some circumstances that minority business owners find themselves in that others might not have the same experience. And so given that I function in a lot of circles where these people can relate to what your journey may have looked like in the beginning, I'd love for you to start off with what hurdles did you have to overcome to get involved, not only as a business owner, but as it pertained to procurement and getting involved in gaining opportunities with the federal government. What did that look like for you?
Oh man, Teresa, you touched on a lot here. I don't know if we have enough time for that. But I think you touched. I want to go back as you brought up a lot of good stuff. One of the biggest points is making that transition from consultant or operator or whatever to CEO, right? And it really, again, journey is a big word, but it is a journey. It's a shift that I didn't understand that I had to make, right? So I knew at a point where I wanted to branch off on my own and start my own company, but really I had to start from scratch, right? And so in my community, I didn't have folks that looked like me that I knew. Obviously, there are people that are African American that have businesses, but I'm saying I didn't know them. Right. And my parents didn't know them. So I didn't have a model where I could go, okay, I've stepped out on my own and I can go talk to fill in the blank, right? So I didn't have that. So I literally had to start from scratch. I literally had to bump my head on every wall imaginable, knock on as many doors as I possibly could. And so, it was tough, right? But I sort of go back to my football training, and I would say that I wasn't necessarily blessed with being the tallest, the fastest, or whatever. I might have. You're
pretty tall, though. I have to say. After meeting you, we met virtually only, and then meeting you in person, I didn't expect you to be as tall as you are. So don't sell yourself short there.
I get that a lot. Like I get people meeting me. I guess on camera I must look small because people go, man, I didn't think you were that big.
You're sitting down. How can you tell, right? Like,
I don't know. So, but no, I harken back to sort of how I was successful as a college athlete, right? And it really was about that grit. I'm type A, so I want to master everything that I do. I'm very ambitious. And so, hey, I know I'm not the fastest, maybe not the tallest, even though some people may think that I am. But I worked on my craft, and I really had that attitude where I'm going to beat my opponent. Like, you're not going to beat me, right? And so what that led to was sort of figuring out what I didn't know, and figuring out a path to getting to know those things, which a lot of it was around. My sphere of influence, my network. I needed to infiltrate, maybe infiltrate not a good word. I needed to break into, I needed to break into circles that I just wasn't privy to prior, right? And so that led me down a path as far as networking, things of that nature, where I had always heard of networking. People say, oh yeah, networking is who you know, that's how you do it. But truly not understanding what that meant, I had to learn that too, right? I had to learn, I'm not overly outgoing, so I had to sort of, take that on as well. So there were a lot of aspects that I had to overcome. And then also, just doing work, we do cleared work. There was a hurdle there, right? I mean, you can't do cleared work without a facilities clearance, right? So I had to start from scratch there, using my network and growing the network and getting a company to sponsor us for our facilities clearance and doing all of those things. And so there's been a ton of hurdles, whether it's learning, whether it's, change or transformation of myself, company hiring people, all of those things. And then what it did for me, it sort of ignited in me this passion that I've always had. I've been a coach. I mentor, I do a lot of things, but now it really ignited in me this passion to give back, to help others, to build community, right? And so, in essence, using those difficulties and almost as a strength, if you will, and then also to pour out and to help others.
That's great. I mean, having a mentor is so important because you pick that person, right? That's not imposed on you. A leader is imposed on you because you step into a situation and you don't always get to pick that person that you're following, right? And so it can go either way depending on the situation. But having a mentor is so important, and engaging in something that you really had to go and look for someone that was maybe not necessarily someone that you already had prior knowledge of is probably difficult, I imagine. I know for me, I engaged in a, second attempt at a career at an older age. So it was a little bit easier for me because there was people around me that had been in the business for a long time. So it wasn't as hard for me to kind of find someone to personality connection that was there, or someone that had my best interest in mind, that, that aspect of it that was there. So it's so important. And we encourage our listenership and the companies that we engage with to look for those spheres of those centers of influence, the spheres of influence that can impact them in a positive way by sharing their experiences. This is one way that we try to expose others' experiences so that if they haven't yet found that person maybe you're it for them. You know what I mean? Maybe they listen to your journey and they're like, I see him and I like what he's had to say. I'm going to reach out to him on LinkedIn and I'm going to see about, what we can do together, collaboration or mentorship or however that looks. So that's why I think conversations like this are so important, because people are impacted when they hear that they're not alone. And I think far too often people try to go against the grain and do things and reinvent the wheel when it's not necessary, when they can look and, see what other challenges other people have dealt with and maybe learn from their experiences, as opposed to making those same mistakes and
Absolutely.
in a necessary way, learning from others. Right. And so I think that that's part of why this kind of conversation is so important, because what you do is unique because it's your journey, but someone can learn from the things that you've put in place. So hurdles are always going to be there. How about let's move to some of the success that your process has, unfolded for you, and talk about where you are today, what your process looks like today is in your engagement with the federal marketplace. And also let's look towards some of the certifications that you have acquired along the way too, that have benefited you, and what that process looked like. Because I don't think everyone recognizes that it's not as easy as it might sound when you let it roll off your tongue.
No, you're so right. And one thing that you brought up before that also makes it difficult, that I was able to use to help me, is that I look young, and I'm relatively young, I'm not that old, but I look even younger. So it is really tough to knock on doors, so to speak, and go, hey, I'm qualified, competent, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still learning. But people get people have preconceived notions. So some of the things that you may trip over just by learning, which may not be a reflection of how good you are or how good of a company you represent, may then, make the stereotype or whatever people have preconceived notions seem real or seem reality for folks. And so having to overcome that, I think, made me a lot better. Right. Mm-hmm. And so from a success standpoint, grabbing the bull by the horns, understanding all of those things. We've gotten on about 4 or 5 subcontracts to date. We just had a pretty big win recently where we did a lot of heavy lifting with one of the large primes to help us win. So that's been awesome. And so we're in this super growth, staff up mode right now.
I love that.
We got our 8A earlier this year, which was a true grind, going back to, hey, look, I want to beat my opponent. I realized that, and I'm sure other people have realized this, but whatever tools you can get to be successful, hey, let's use them. So we pursued, the 8A, and we got the 8A. And I tell you what, Teresa, it was almost like, just staying with the athletic sort of example, right? It was almost like I was knocking on doors and I was dirty and I was sweaty, I was disgusting, and people would go, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah.
Now you get your 8A, got a little bit more experience, you get better. And it's like I shaved and I freshened up, and people want me to come over for dinner and invite me in the house, right? Figuratively speaking. And so it is much, much, much more helpful. I wouldn't say, and I know people say, don't lead with your status and all those things.
Right.
So I'm not saying that, that is the only thing, that the end all be all, but it definitely helped as I grew as a leader. It helped with opportunities. So now we're having other opportunities outside of the IC, right? Where we can leverage, the goodness of our past performance and the 8A to be able to provide services to like the Air Force, the Navy, other DoD components. And so it's been really, really cool from that standpoint. And then also from a success standpoint, it's been really cool to build more community, right? Mm-hmm. And so as I understand and embrace building communities, now I'm out. Now I'm meeting more people. Now I'm asking for help. Now I'm getting some of the help. I met folks like Carla Williams that connected the two of us, right?
Yep.
And so all of these things I consider are successes because it's helping us build. It's helping us grow. It's helping us. Like I said, we started some commercial work and working with nonprofits, and using some of the goodness from our work with the government and folks' experience to add value to the community, add value to nonprofit executives, that most times don't have the resources that they need to grow and transform and be successful. And we're able to say, hey, look, not only can we do that from a technology standpoint, but let us help you from whatever standpoint we can and leverage our experiences and our services. And so it's been really awesome. Things are really going well, and I'm beyond grateful. Probably too busy, but it's been a good busy.
That's a good place to be, and I hear you. And I think a lot of what we've been chatting about. It's the great point that I find that you've made all the way through is that a lot of what has led to the success that you have today has been from learning through your experience. And the best way to get ahead is to actually embrace it as you're dealing with it and not be overwhelmed by it and not let it defeat you and make you decide to, pivot and go backwards. And so I think I commend you because I know it hasn't been easy. It's not easy for anyone. And nobody is successful overnight. You didn't just start winning these contracts yesterday. This has been a long time coming. You've had to do a lot of work to grow your business and to grow your aptitude for your work so that you knew how to properly sell your services to the right buyer. And so I think that that's amazing. And I encourage people to reach out to you on LinkedIn and check out your website and see if what you guys have going on is something that can be applied to their work, or even if it's just to reach out to you to say, hey, I listened to you on the podcast and your journey is something similar to what I'm going through. And, if that leads to a good collaborative, relationship that starts out of that, I hope nothing but good comes out of you being on here. Other government agencies that are paying attention. I know you're working with a couple of the different military agencies and branches of the service. And so I always encourage people to diversify their portfolio as much as possible. And it seems like you already know how to do that. And that's amazing. Don't ever put all your eggs in one basket, because the indefinite reality of every business is that you should be doing business with as many people as you can and not as few. And you're on a great track for that. And I love that you love to give back. We talked a little bit about your football background at William and Mary. I have a soft spot for it as well. I played college soccer. And so a lot of my fortitude in professional life has to do with having been a lifelong athlete. And so
you didn't tell me that. That's awesome. Yeah.
Well, most people are surprised to find out that I was the goalie and I am not tall. And so that's why they know that the red hair is the warning signal, because it's it's a little bit on the crazy side and not so much on the height side. So, but I think that the experience of being a lifelong athlete has provided a lot of benefit in my ability to get through some tough times in my professional life and to have that, ability to move forward with resilience. Anyone that's been involved in any type of competitive sports knows that, any day can be an off day, and you got to keep, pushing through, and practice is important. And so, but I love the fact that you have a special passion of giving back, not only in your professional life, but in your personal life. You do some work with the football team at your alma mater. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, and shame on you for not telling me that you played soccer. But I digress. I played football at the College of William and Mary. Well, now called just William and Mary. When we graduated, all you hear about before you get there, while you're there, after you leave, all these great people that have graduated and went on to great things. Mm-hmm. Folks that play sports, what have you. And, maybe a few years ago, maybe 5 or 10, but closer, the passion sort of built as the years went by. But, we looked around and I said, well, I don't feel that, right? I see guys here that are successful, see guys here, but I'm not feeling that from a sense of community, right? And I'm not seeing how we're all leveraging our individual successes to level up, whether it be, in our families, whether it be, work-wise or whatever else, right? And so the focus became, how do we build this network and how do we cultivate and build this network where we can take all this goodness from all these people that went to this college that are all as successful, and then use that, like I said, to grow individually and collectively. And so I had a great idea. I got a few of my teammates together, and we formed what we call Tribe Post Game, where we're focused on engagement. We're focused on cultivating and developing a network through, just highlighting our alums and letting them tell their stories, right? And which is one of the key building blocks around bringing people together. Mm-hmm. And so what we do is a podcast as well as a newsletter where we're just letting alums tell their story for like 10, 15 minutes, right? And introducing them to people across decades. I mean, we've interviewed people that graduated in the 70s that I had never heard of, all the way down to folks that have graduated within the last 10 years or so. And so it has been so cool. It also helps that the football team this year was really good, made it to the the semifinal. No. They made it close to the national championship. I don't know what you call it, but
nice.
They did really well this year. And so the combination of the two has meant that engagement is out of the roof, right? And guys are really charged up and lives are being changed. And it's just really cool. And I'm just getting a chance to meet and be impacted and also impact people that I never knew, that play, but they are our brothers because we play William & Mary football.
I love it. And sports is a relationship that lasts a lifetime. And I think being able to expose people that have been a part of the program is going to open up their networks to potential business opportunities, personal opportunities. I think that it's great. And Lord knows I love a good podcast. So, so I encourage everyone to reach out to you and find out about that as well. So we can start following that for you too. But this has been awesome. I'm so glad that we had the chance to sit down and talk. I know that this isn't going to be the last time that you and I chat, but I certainly appreciate you sharing your story. I think that a lot of people are going to be impacted by the journey that was yours, and they can maybe take some of that bits and pieces of it and apply it to make things better for themselves too. So thank you again for being here. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I enjoyed every minute of it. And also getting to know you. See, I learned something new today, and we learned it on the podcast.
That's right. Well, I love it. And we'll chat again soon. And as always, we're grateful for your time and your willingness to share your experiences with government contract leaders who are following a similar path into the industry. We talk a lot about how important it is for us to share our journeys with each other to assist in the growth that comes from learning from one another. So thank you again. We encourage all of our listeners to continue to follow us as we have many exciting episodes ahead to share with you. If you're interested in viewing our past podcasts, you can find the archives to do so on our YouTube channel by the same name. It's a pleasure to support the government contracting community, and we look forward to servicing you every day. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Teresa Moon, and this is Spilling the Tea on GovCon. Have a great day.